Hello, everyone. I'm just going to show you me recording and editing this story. Let's see how well we can do it this time, okay? If I don't respond to your chat, it's not because I'm ignoring you, I'm just recording. So, good luck, everyone. January 1st, 2740. It has been a slim fishing season. I was barely breaking even, and if I don't bring back more fish this month, I am going to lose my home and my boat. Our normal spots aren't yielding much fish, so I am going to take the risk of going past the Devil's Reef. So I told my son, Jimmy, that I was going to be gone longer this trip because I needed to head past the Devil's Reef. He knew that it was dangerous, but he also knew how much we needed the money. By this point, he was tired of only eating the fish I was catching, especially since the price of cornmeal went up yet again. So even cornbread is a luxury for us right now. I let my crew know about my plans, and three of the older fishermen quit over that news. It pains me to see them go, but I am able to replace them with some newbies who are looking for work. There's always another down on his luck drunk that needs to get paid. As long as they don't drink while we are at sea, I don't care what they spend their check on. With my crew ready and my boat, the Alert, ready, we made our way out of New Fisher. A few old men tried warning us away from heading to Devil's Reef, but I had to ignore them. Old men always warn against going to Devil's Reef, and most of the time the ships that go beyond the reef are completely fine. So I stumbled over that one more than I liked. So let's see if we can find where I stumbled. Old men always warn against going. Old men always warn against going to Devil's Reef, and most of the time the ships that go beyond the reef are completely fine. Last I checked, we only lost 3 fishing boats in the last 20 years, so I was certain I was going to be all right. January 18th, 2740. I'm marking these down so that way I can make little chapters for the video, because this video is going to be about 30 minutes long, give or take. We got any watchers right now? I guess not. That's okay. To the people in the past, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy this. That is all that matters to me right now. We've made it to the Devil's Reef. Coral beneath the water is supposed to be 300 meters below the surface. The cold white coral could be seen gently dancing to the deep sea currents as we made our way further north, and I warned the men not to look at the coral for too long. Staring at them for a long time tends to have an almost somnambulant effect on anyone staring on it too long. Sorta like snow in the ocean, and you always need to be alert when out on Oceanus. As we passed over the coral, I thought back to what Jimmy told me he learned from an old marine biology book about the Devil's Reef. He said that the coral, despite looking like coral, was actually more closely related to jellyfish than it was to tropical coral, and sometimes the microscopic coral would drift hundreds or even thousands of kilometers before finding the ideal environment to settle down. They were a lot like people in that way. He also said that most of the fish and other creatures that lived in the Devil's Reef couldn't live elsewhere. When scientists tried to take them out to examine, the fish would die in captivity within hours. Even coral samples would die within days, and even trying to move the fish to a different climate would kill the sea life. The sea life here was very durable because it lived in one of the harshest biomes on the planet. However, it was also very fragile because it would die anywhere else. Also, a lot like people. When we made it beyond the Devil's Reef, it felt like there was a change in the air. I could feel an internal pressure behind my ears, like I needed to pop, but I couldn't pop my ears. Even when I yawned or chewed gum, I could still hear, and so could the crew. So we continued even further north, watching carefully for anything that might be a risk to the boat. Tonight, I think we will find our fishing spot. Fun little fact about the coral reefs, there are some creatures that are legitimately like that, where if you remove them from the biome, the entire biome will start to die, and the creature will die being taken out of it. Coral reefs are quite fascinating like that. Also like people. Extra points to anyone who gets my reference. Ow, that was my spine. January 18th, night 2740. The lights in the night sky were gorgeous. Gorgeous streaks of green, yellow, and blue danced across the night sky, an aurora unlike anything I saw back in New Fisher. This far north, the effect was more like watching dragons dance, fly, and fight across the sky. It was truly beautiful, and my men and I watched it for over an hour until the cloud cover was thick enough to keep us from seeing it. So now we head to bed. For real this time. Pretty cool, right? Oh, I like this part. I slept in. We all slept in. We slept past our alarms, and the dreams I had were strange. I dreamt that I was standing on the bow of the ship looking out over the seas. From the ocean, I could see a great ziggurat rise from the bottom of the sea, constructed from a strange stone that was white as bone and smooth as glass. On top of the ziggurat was an empty throne, a throne that was logically smaller than the ziggurat, but looking at the empty throne, it felt that throne held the weight of the world. And in the dream, I watched as all of the creatures of the ocean swam towards the ziggurat. Each creature threw itself onto the steps of the great temple, all committing suicide before the empty temple, with the empty throne atop it. For the empty temple, with the empty throne atop it. The sharks, the squids, and even the whales all threw themselves at the steps. And still, there were more steps to cover in death and gore, and the highest levels of the ziggurat were untouched by the chaos and carnage below. Behind the sea creatures, I saw people swimming up to the steps. I screamed at them to stop, for them to leave this unholy place. But that did nothing. More and more people swam up to the temple to sacrifice themselves, and with every death, there was another behind them, willing to climb past their compatriots' blood and body, just for another chance to get a little closer to the empty throne. But no matter how many sacrificed themselves, no matter how many dead there were, the throne was always higher than anyone could reach. That's why I corrected during the presentation. Sometimes you don't catch it till you say it out loud. And then I'm gonna have to take all of this and turn it into a subtitle. So making sure it's accurate the first time is quintessential for, making a good story. Even when the sea was red with blood and so full of bodies that the water could not be seen, the empty throne sat out of reach of everyone's desperate grasp. But no matter what I yelled at the people killing themselves to reach the throne, they didn't care. In their minds, the empty throne was worth it dying, killing, and fighting for. It didn't matter if no one saw the throne. Just the fact that they could see the throne was enough to drive every living thing to self destruction. I wondered why I was immune to this greed when I realized that I wasn't actually standing on the bow of my ship. Instead, I was sitting on the throne. I was dressed in robes of the most vibrant violet that I have ever seen or imagined. The throne I sat on was made of gold with encrusted jewels. As I looked down on all of the little pathetic worms trying to claw their way closer to me, it didn't matter what they were. They could have been a titanic sea serpent or a lowly fish, a prince of men or a king of beasts. Up on my throne of gold, jewel, and violet, they were all equally as pathetic as the maggots and parasites that ate the flesh of the dead. I was the king of all I saw. No, not a king. Something grander than a king. Someone who spoke for the gods. Someone who is a god in living flesh. Someone who was so regal that I could demand blood from others to make my robes violet. I saw all who struggled to reach me, and I had an idle thought to give up some of myself down to the maggots below. I thought of giving up my blood or my jewels or even a strip of my own purple robes down below. Instead, though, I decided to not give any of the masses below any part of myself. After all, they were killing each other just to get closer to me. Giving them a piece of myself would end the rabble, and it would end my entertainment. So I reclined in my throne, content to watch the maggots below feed on each other, never getting closer to me. As odd as the dream was, my day started normal until we saw our first dead whale. Sometimes you will see dead whales. However, something was odd about the dead humpback whale. Across the whale's gray flesh were thousands of barnacles that licked the air and the water. As the boat passed by the whale, there was no blood nor chum in the water. Normally, thousands of scavengers would have started breaking down the whale by now. Instead, the only thing that ate the dead flesh of the whale was the barnacles that covered every square centimeter of the whale. We were careful not to get too close, but even from half a kilometer away, we could smell the rotting guts of the sea mammal. However, once we passed by the first whale, we saw the others. Dozens of humpback whales, all dead together. At least 3 dozen whales were just floating dead in the water, all covered in the same bone white barnacles, all with no chum, no blood, and no scavengers. We couldn't see any cows in the water, so there were at least 9 different pods of whales who all just decided to die in the same place, or something killed them. We all agreed to be far from the whales. Leviathans and kaiju both ate whales, and some of them were also scavengers. And the last thing we wanted to deal with was a child of Carabidus, a devil whale, or something worse. That might consider the alert a delicious meal. So we continue even further north for our fishing grounds. An old legend tells that if you suspect a devil whale is in the area, that it isn't safe to fish in. And even if I am agnostic towards most legends and myths, I have been a fisherman long enough to know that when something warns of danger, there is danger, even if you don't know why. I knew that creatures like leviathans, deep ones, and devil whales were just creatures. They had to be scary, terrifying, and dangerous, but so are sharks and octopi, and sailors made legends about them too. We found the fishing ground. Yeah, that's written that way for a reason. No watchers. Nice. Okay. Well, I guess this will be a good thing to show Leanne James tomorrow. January 20th, 2740. The fish here are strange. The fish we pull up have no eyes, not because they're blind fish. Their eyes are just gone, completely wiped out of their skulls. Not like something ate their eyes either, they just aren't there. Empty sockets that have only darkness inside of them, but they are easy to catch, and we are filling the freezers down below very quickly. We should be able to finish by tomorrow. I don't like the way the fish look at me. They watch me. Even through the freezer walls, they watch me. Every move I take, every breath I take, every mistake I make, they're watching me. I don't like how they keep moving, even when they're frozen, but they only move when they're not watched. I have to hide from them, but there is nowhere that I can hide from them. They're maggots trying to climb up the ziggurat. They cannot hurt me. They throw themselves into our nets because they prefer death over what is chasing them. Anyone here familiar with the concept of lemmings? Yeah, fun fact, those things don't actually commit mass suicide. Yeah, that was just a fake thing because of a Disney documentary. Weird stuff. But yeah, animals are weird. But any kind of creature that's driven to prefer death over what's chasing it, that's not a natural thing that actually happens. So be afraid. Be very afraid. January 21st, 2740. Had a hard time sleeping. I kept having nightmares, and at one point I tried writing it down in my logbook. Whatever I wrote last night, I cannot read it. I dreamt again of the throne that towered over the ocean. I dreamt that I sat on the throne, and instead of creatures killing themselves on the steps of the temple to try and reach me, I was surrounded by a quiet earth. I could see to the very ends of the earth, from the highest reaches of the sky to the darkest depths of the ocean. Nothing lived on the entire planet. Nothing except myself. From the mightiest kaiju to the smallest microbe, I was alone in the world, so I stared up to the night sky above. The sun was a red disk in the sky with an empty heart that slowly expanded to consume the disk in its entirety. I just want to make my point very clear. While lots of cultures depict the sun as a disk, the thing I want everyone to think about in this part of the dream and this part of the story is Egyptian mythology. Consider it in critically thinking that way, and you're going to see something very clever. Like an eclipse, but there was no moon in front of the sun. The stars above were so plentiful that even with the sun consumed by Mammon, leaving emptiness where the sun once was, the sky was full of light that was brighter than even the sunniest summer day. Even as the sun was consumed, there was only one spot of darkness above, a black moon that howled from never ending grief as I watched the cosmic dance above me, a black moon surrounded by a ring of stellar silver. The sun grew smaller and the moon grew larger as the waters surrounded my temple and drowned me. But even as I could no longer breathe, I could not tear my eyes away from the black moon above, whose howls echoed through the water around me as I stared up at the black moon, endlessly fascinated. And then something impossibly large covered the black moon. It both ascended from the southern pole of Luna's obsidian surface, and it also descended from the moon's northern pole, a substance that was the color of a night sky at sunset, covered in countless sparkling, impossible diamonds and jewels that shone like stars, a color that filled me with longing and sadness. It reminded me of heartbreak, lost love, and longing. It was like what I felt at my wife's death, but so much worse. My wife was just dead. As much as I missed her, the very fact she was dead meant that I would see her again, because I too would die someday. Not a comforting thought most of the time, but the very nature of mortality meant we would be together someday. The impossible thing that covered the black moon was a reminder of a love that I would never know and that I would never see. Even death would be denied to me as the depths of the ocean pushed me even further away from what covered the black moon as the impossible covering of the moon parted. The covering rushed down south and north, revealing the impossibly dark moon as the substance revealed the moon and the silver surrounding it as it grew closer to me, covering the entirety of the sky as I was pushed further down. The black moon blinked at me, and that didn't scare me. Yeah, I'm erasing part of that because I burped. It's very late where I'm at, so I'm taking some caffeine. Yes, I know it says 7 p.m., but I'm not actually telling you any of you where my time zone is. For all intents and purposes, I'm in Antarctica. And that didn't scare me. That only filled me with more longing as I reached up to try and reach out to the eye of the one above me. In my dream, I knew that I loved her. In my dream, I knew that I hadn't seen her in so long that I only wanted another moment to see her. It wasn't the night sky above I was looking at earlier. It was her skin. The skin of someone or something impossibly large, impossibly powerful, impossibly lonely, impossibly ancient. My love, who had been separated from me for so long that I had forgotten her name, and she had forgotten my name as well, as I reached up for her, and in her howling, tore through me as I finally woke up in bed and I wrote down what I dreamt. What is wrong with these waters? The sky above is gray, and that makes me full of longing. The pain of missing my wife feels fresh again, and the crew is quiet as they work. They quietly whisper among each other as they work. But I caught a few words. They are all missing someone on land as well, and the sky above, being as gray as the sea below, is making us feel worse. Something feels wrong about the ocean. Even though we are pulling up even more fish, the ocean doesn't feel alive. Normally, the ocean feels alive, sometimes angry, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and sometimes an emotion I don't have words to describe. But it felt dead on that day. We have finally, we finally have reached our final load of fish, and we are running into an issue. Some of the fish have bone white barnacles on them, barnacles that taste the air with their tongues, that kept licking our gloved hands even as we threw the fish back. But I cut myself on one of the barnacles, and I know a few other men have done so as well. But we aren't talking about it. I think maybe a few barnacles might have made their way into the hole with the fish. However, that's fine. We have more than enough to make it through. We have begun the trip back. Well, you know what they say. What do you call a fish with no eyes? Shh. I amuse myself. And stuff gets real serious real quick. Any Lovecraft fans here? I'm going to assume at least some of you have heard of Lovecraft, so we're going to continue. January 24th, 2740. The sea is quiet. The sky is quiet. The sailor is quiet. The ship is quiet. The waves crash silently on the decks. I can feel the wind in my hair, but it does not whistle past my ears. I can feel the chill on my skin, but my teeth do not chatter. I can feel the emptiness of my stomach, but it does not growl. I can see the words of my logbook, but the pages do not rustle. I have not dreamed in 3 days. A great relief. Last night I decided to stop sleeping. Even when I sleep, it is restless. My body aches, my eyes are bloodshot, and I feel like I have to keep moving. We passed the Devil's Reef yesterday, and when we did, some of the sailors were thrown over. Only the ones who were dead weight. The men who still slept did not wake up. They were holding us back. Their eye sockets were as empty as the fish. They stared at us, and from toothless gums they whispered to us. When you are in complete silence, you are thankful for the whispers at first. But they whispered the same words over and over. Adam's wrath has escaped none's grasp. Adam's wrath has escaped none's grasp. Adam's wrath has escaped none's grasp. It was not right, and the dead men still moved. But they only moved when we did not look at them. They followed me. They were always behind me. They were always whispering. The only sound in the world, and no matter what I did, I could not trap the dead men. They followed, they whispered, they tormented. I threw them all overboard. Some of them still grasped at my hands and arms as I threw them overboard, even though the only words I could hear was, Adam's wrath has escaped none's grasp. I could still read their lips as the dead men begged for their lives. There is only one sailor left other than myself. The sky and the sea are still gray. I have not seen the sun, moon, nor stars in days. I don't remember what they look like anymore. Did the sun ever exist? Or was that just an illusion? A lie we tell ourselves so we don't feel alone in the darkness. Did the stars ever exist, or are they simply Sisyphus's distant stone? Something we can never approach nor push up, always pushed down by them. Did the moon ever exist? Or was the moon always an eye watching me that has decided that I am now too hideous to look at? Now, to anyone listening, the very fact that the character doesn't remember what the sun and moon looks like is a big red flag. Even my characters in hell or pandemonium remember what the sun and moon look like. So whatever is wiping or affecting their mind is intentionally depriving them from seeing heaven, seeing or even imagining heaven. In a way, it is worse than hell. I am hideous. I hate mirrors. They remind me that I am hideous. My true beauty is inside of me, and it's just covered by this disgusting, rotting, cloying meat that we are born surrounded by. No one brave enough to just remove the dead weight, keeping us from being beautiful. But I am growing more beautiful each day. I saw some of my true beauty shine through a few days ago. The first night I could not sleep. I got up and went to the sink to see if the water could help me calm down. What I saw in the mirror scared me. My skin was sallow, my hair was greasy, my eyes were bloodshot, and my stubble was coming in. So, figuring I wasn't getting enough sleep, I grabbed my razor and I shaved away my stubble. Each time I slid the razor across my face, I left more and more of my stubble and my ugliness in my sink. Scrape after scrape, I left dark hair, red flesh, yellow blood, and pink tissue in the sink until it clogged my sink and I decided to dump my stubble into the trash. After I shaved, I was with a permanent smile, my mandible bone shining through, few fibrous tentacles connecting the mandible to the skull, a few of the barnacle shells clear, but I was just happy to remove some of the stubble. But still, I was hideous. True beauty came from within, but I couldn't let it out yet. I had to let the beauty grow. Each night since then, I have shaved more and more of my body. For the first time in my life, I shaved my legs, my genitals, and my chest as I finally revealed more and more of my beauty, leaving more and more of my hideousness away as I exposed more and more fibers and more barnacles. I was careful to leave the flesh beneath the skin as untouched as I could. My beauty needed to feed. We will be home in a few days. I wonder why the other sailor lives in the mirror. 31 minutes clean. Love it. Wonder who the other sailor is. Try to keep it as precise as you can, at least for me. Just because this level of precision doesn't hurt anything. Yay, I got some hearts. Thank you all. Love your support. I know, everyone's sleeping right now, but that's okay. I don't mind it. As far as I know, this is the only way I can record this. So, sue me. January 27th, 2740. I am finally beautiful. There's definitely a metaphor there for cutting away parts of yourself to make yourself feel beautiful. Definitely something I know a lot of people familiar with. Beauty is both in the eye and the beholder, and it is only skin deep, and it is inside you all at the same time. So, how do we deal with it? Just remove the skin, just remove the eyes, and then you can see what's beneath. Sound fair? Love it. January 28th, 2740. I feel incomplete. My beauty wants to grow more, but there's nothing left to feed it. I soak in the freezer with the fish, but it isn't enough. The beauty lives, but it needs more to grow. I feel it inside of me, like the heart of a beating temple. It needs to spread among the others of home. Home. Hum. Hmm. What is my home called? Why can't I remember? Why can't I remember my child's name? Wait, I didn't forget. I knew I didn't forget. My child's name is Beauty. My child's name is Life. My child's name is Death. Adam's Wrath. Adam's Wrath. Adam's Wrath. Adam's Wrath is my true children, and they shall be shared with everyone. I wonder if the sky will ever stop being gray. I wonder if I will ever see night or day again. I wonder if I will ever hear anything other than the whispers of the sailor watches me from above. He is hideous. The sailor watches me from above. He is hideous. Nobody was always on the ship. I just can't see him now. I wonder if he took my dreams, or if I gave them to him. My men returned from the mare. They climbed up the boat, all beautiful, bare bone and barnacle. They carry children of their own, and they hoped to help their children grow. But there isn't enough food in these waters, so they are hoping to help their children home. Nobody is piloting the ship. We work under nobody's watch. Nobody eats, nobody sleeps, everybody works. Nobody rests. Nobody writes for me while I work alongside the men. I wonder if their minds are like mine or if they are truly beautiful and empty. When we arrive home, nobody disembarks. The men and I unload the fish onto the dock. It must be night for everyone else. There is no darkness for us. There is no light. There is only the whispering, the gray, and the mare. The boat tied into place. We wait beneath the dock. We hide in none's bosom. We no longer need shoes kiss to live. In time, they will eat the flesh, and they will carry Adam's wrath, and I will get to join them, and we will find enough food for our children to live. Adam's wrath has escaped Noon's grasp, and like all good children, Adam's wrath is ready to make his own home. I don't know why I keep using the term clean number, but it's the way my brain thinks of things, or at least the way I'm describing it. I guess a round number would be more accurate. You should see the way I try to break things down into 15. I'm talking to myself right now. It's okay. Yep, I actually picked up this phrase from Old Egyptian just to be able to say this one statement that it'll make no sense to anyone. I'm proud of my hard work. Always learning something new. January 30th, 2740. I remember her name. She knows my name. I am not the one she's looking for. Mira e tu nut. The Alert pulled into New Fisher with no apparent crew. The logbook was found, but the writing was impossible for anyone to read. Anyone who tried reading the words would forget them soon afterwards. Only if they dictated what it said while it was read, and someone was listening, could it be understood. It could be summarized or copied over. However, the original logbook was impossible to read and recall at the same time. By the time the people of New Fisher knew what was happening, the infection of Adam's wrath had spread across the town, not just from the infected fish, but also from the silent screamers from the alert, leaving behind both strange infection and stranger writing. Nobody survived, nobody escaped, nobody won. And this is why the subtitles are so important in my writing, because nobody here is a proper noun. That means it's someone's name. If only you knew someone important's named Nobody, right? Sorry, it's funnier if I can pull this up. Here it is. I like to listen to music while I edit it and stuff. Hope you don't mind. If anyone try to report me, I will find you. And you will not get another one of these things. Fishing beyond the Devil's should be beyond Devil's Reef or beyond the Devil's Reef. I prefer just Devil's Reef. It gives it a proper noun. Fun fact, that's a Lovecraft reference. Gotta make sure I have everything in the right place. Pretty sure I do, but you need to check. For the fisherman brings something back from the young something that they didn't even bring it. That's what I thought. Okay. Or close enough. Thought it was 2 minutes 35 seconds. Forgot to mark it here. 2 minutes 44. Now you guys get to know the fun part. Love Unsplash just for stuff like this. And yeah, fun fact, ghost coral is a real thing. Thank you, Noah. My name is nobody, nobody, nobody. Yeah, let me make sure I'm not sticking you all in the same songs. It's like I'm comfortable repeating the same song over and over again, but I don't know if everyone else is. So yeah, one of these days we'll do this in order. Right now, I just kind of listening to this while I edit. So turn that down a little. That's the EVP noises I recorded. Put them at the end of each video. Extra points if you understand what the ghost is saying. This is alphabetical, so fishing beyond the Devil's Reef. And this is why standardization of naming convention is so important. Because story here, this is the story, fishing beyond the Devil's Reef. I record the audio, I put it that way as well. It's what I name my videos. Keeping it all consistent allows me to keep things easier to organize. Be a lot harder if it was something like, say, okay, it's Devil Reef, but over here it says fish. Over here it says Noon's Wrath, things like that. So, yeah, trust me, your naming conventions, whatever naming convention you decide on, keeping it consistent, at least internally, is going to go a lot further than actually you figuring out what to say. You can name a story whatever you want, but if you keep your naming conventions consistent, at least for you, you can make things easy for you. Trust me, that'll be important when you're dealing with more than one story. I've got hundreds by this point. I started including the date format here because somebody asked me what was the timeline order for these, and I couldn't explain it in a very clear way. I started doing it this way, and I liked it, so I kept it. So I won't necessarily keep this for every story, I'll keep it for most. Makes the timeline easier to understand. January 1st to January 30th, 2740 AUC. And for anyone who is not using the AOC calendar, that is 1987 AD. Pretty cool, right? At least I think it is. Again, if you're going to use a different dating convention from what from the calendars you're familiar with, you have to make sure it's at least consistent internally. I don't quite like that. Let's try this. Fishing beyond the Devil's Reef. I can adjust the colors a little more, but I at least need a decent idea what I'm doing. Yeah, the white looks worse than the black. Usually you can pick one or the other. Okay, what's something between white and black? I hate doing this, but here. Somehow that was worse than I expected. Select a color, but I need to find a good one. A little better, but don't like it. Maybe I just need to move it. Fishing beyond the Devil's Reef. That does look better. Not fully comfortable with the positioning. Is there something better? Red, maybe? Red does seem like it's working fairly well, but I'm changing the border color. I listen to a lot of nerdcore music and a lot of Greek mythology music, and I found Epic recently, thanks to my partner, and I've been listening to this lately. All I did was reimburse them. Had a lot of fun at SAC Anime. Had a lot of fun with my family. Had a lot of fun with Leanne James. We're already planning our next things. We're thinking about doing a presentation about social taboos. Yes, we're thinking about doing one for YouTube too, but we got to see how the live streams are doing first, buddy. So if y'all like these lessons and stuff, you got to show me support in some way. Either watch it or comment on it or something. Trust me, I love listening. I love listening to the comments and the likes and all that fun stuff. Fishing beyond the Devil's Reef looks good. Let's export quality. Please, Can you can you never? Can you stop recommending things to me? That'd be nice. Free program came with the computer, so I'm making it work. And I opened my Unity hub. Yeah, I'm learning to make video games in my spare time. But looks like that's gonna export. Then once that's done, I'm gonna upload it onto YouTube. Do we have any questions while I'm here? No, looks like everyone's busy. That's okay. Well, I guess I'm about to end my presentation. Thank you, everyone. And as you can see, that was a lot of work just for a little 30-minute video. And I still got to actually get it up to YouTube, but I'll get it done tonight. So if there's nothing else, I hope everyone has a good night and sweet dreams.